Hey, glad you can make it. Welcome to Fantasy Dad Pods, where dad bods are glorified and dad jokes are encouraged. I'm JT, accompanied by Sean. Sean, how we doing?
We're doing good. Everybody in the house is feeling a-okay, other than some kids being tired because we had some riffraff come over this weekend by the name of JT and some other friends, and so the boys got to stay up later than they normally do, and especially with the youngest one, it threw him off today. He was tired, so he was he got up way later, but then he still was just like all day. He was like, oh, I'll take a nap. And then it got like 5 o'clock. He's like, I'm hungry and I'm tired. And so we're like, okay, we're going to bed. So no, chill weekend. Nothing too crazy to report. I gotta fix one of my son's shelves in his closet because it's a if you can picture a closet, not a walk-in or anything like that, but just a standard closet for a kid's bedroom, but we put like a half shelf in, so it doesn't lock into both sides of a wall. It's kind of like we anchored it in, everything like that. But me and my wife, I gotta say, it's probably a joint effort. Put blankets and we push them down on that shelf, and it slowly pulled the bottom one, and it came out the other day. So I gotta fix that. But I didn't get around to it today because he was a little extra tired and a little extra cranky. So, but because it's Monday, didn't have to work, but it was a weird day, so had to get my workout in with the other kiddo. So hopefully it'll be a little easier with the kiddo not there, and I could take my lunch break and maybe do some house stuff. Yeah, pretty straightforward weekend. How about you?
Yeah, same with the youngest. He was showing sometimes some being tired tonight after dinner. He was just like in the mood, and they don't have school tomorrow, so they're doing a slumber party at the grandparents. So um, hopefully they'll be good. We left them uh, playing bingo, and then not agreeing on whether they would play more bingo as we dropped them off, or if they would play some other board game. But all is well. Oldest, we had the first basketball practice. It went really well. Set a really good tone. Had a really good practice. One of the parents, one of the moms, gave me a nice compliment. I appreciated because that was the first one where I kind of like upfront was like, "Hey, you all are 8 to 10-year-olds, third, fourth graders. This is what I expect. This is like what you probably should want out of this, and like let's get to it. So um it was good. What else? Played cornral Friday night. That was fun. It was National Popcorn Day. Filled up an entire like ginormous bucket of popcorn, so that was cool. Um but yeah, otherwise, um watching a bunch of football and watched most of the national championship tonight. Um,
What did the final score end up being? I didn't catch the very end.
it's like 11-point game, so like
Oh, okay.
34-23, something right in there.
Okay.
So they gave up. Ohio State gave up a late touchdown. Spoiler alert for people listening to this the day
Man,
after.
man. Spoiler: if you were set it to record and you're gonna watch later, I'm sorry.
Well, actually, I was talking to one of my coworkers. She's a big football fan, and before I mentioned something about my really getting into, the standings and the playoff bracket and all. She's like, "Don't say anything. I've recorded all the games, but I was out of town and I need to catch up and watch." So like she was like,
Man,
up
okay.
front. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, like that's good because otherwise I might have like
Yeah, that's
oops."
you got to be upfront with that information. Yeah, anytime, or just like go on a texting hiatus if you want to keep that information. But good on her for letting you know that, because yeah, I would have spoiled that right off the rip. I
Right?
probably would have said something.
Yeah. So yeah, didn't want to spoil that. Also, news, MLB news, spoiler alert, Roki Sasaki signed with the Dodgers. So
He
the
did.
rich get richer.
Richie Rich. Did I use that right? Is that what that movie's about?
I think so.
Just about Dodgers and spending a lot of money? I feel like I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. What was that Disney movie with the? Was it Blank Check? Was it just called Blank Check?
Yeah, and the kid with the backpack and
Yeah,
sunglasses and
the Dodgers are just that kid who grew up. That's it. That's just it.
yeah. I should have blanked checked, but My blank check that I was given when I was younger was from my grandma, so I would have bankrupted her and not some,
You
like, evil
would have
corporation like that
ruined
kid
her.
did. Well, it was I forget and then, like, 2 years later, and again, it was Christmas again. 2 years later, I didn't get a check in the card she handed out. Everyone else did, and I just kinda like, "Thanks, grandma," and I was just looking at, like, my mom, dad, I'm like, "There's nothing in here," and they're like, "Oh, we'll take care of it, like, don't make a big deal." I was like, "Yeah, we're good,
Yeah.
we're good."
Grandma forgot. It's okay. It's all right.
Grandma forgot to just put in a check and actually sign it and date it and everything too. Here's a check.
You just let grandma be grandma.
All right. Any other MLB news of note? I don't know if you've.
Not major. I mean, there was the Dodgers signed an ex closer. He's not going to close for them, but other than like fantasy relevant news, no, not in our since our last catcher conversation. No, no,
Yeah,
I don't. Not that unless I'm missing something.
no. I like to go on mining the news on the Rotographs website. I mean, there's not much. Chris Martin looking like might close for the Rangers because they are quote like we've done our bulk lifting at this point, end quote. I was like, that's quite the thing to say. Red Sox might be toying with the 6-man rotation, so that's kind of noteworthy. Diamondbacks might not go after Seawald. AJ Puck, again, it's a closer thing. This is actually my favorite. This kind of ties into spring training, early spring training. It's the best shape of my life. So in that same vein, Josh Bell of the Nationals again wants to hit the ball hard and in the air. So
Don't think that was his issue even before. It was just how often he was doing that.
yeah, I was like,
I
don't
mean,
we all, Josh?
I was gonna say, Josh, like Luis Ariz could be like, yeah, I should do that more. That's kind of all you do. like, you just need to do it more. I think. Uh, as we say on this podcast, and I explain to my wife, big boys, big toys. Josh Bell, is he still in Washington? Where's he at?
Yeah, he went back to Washington.
Okay, okay. This is that Josh Bell's been a sneaky fantasy dad pod favorite for a while, just like value guy for a long time. We've always been hyping him up. Wanted him for our real baseball team, the Mariners. They wouldn't do that, but that's another story for another day. Speaking of current though, studs, first baseman. I'm looking at the rankings here on one of the websites we use. There's a three-way tie for first, basically. Now, the average changes a little bit, but the standard deviation is basically the same, too. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Freddie Freeman, and Bryce Harper. Now, obviously, we're not talking dynasty or anything like that, but just talking redraft this year, JT. Do you agree with this order?
Yeah.
Not even a hesitation?
Hesitation, but yeah. I'm good with it. I mean, Guerrero Jr. is just kind of. I don't know how consistent of a year. I don't know what percentile year we just got out of him. The potential's there. He could repeat this, but we've seen other years where you're just like, what are you doing? You're just hitting ground balls all the time. I feel like Freeman and Harper are more you know what you're going to get, know what you expect. And the question mark is, with Harper now at first, what maybe he won't be as dinged up as he has in the past, and he can stay healthy like he did this last season and have a full season because they're kind of protecting him there by playing first base. And then Freddie Freeman is just, he's on the best baseball team in the leagues, and he's, got lineup protection all around him, and they keep adding more pieces, and it's just like, I mean, why not? He almost chips in double-digit steals. I mean, barely right over there, but he had 9 last year. So I mean, of note, but he's not going to hit as many home runs as those other two. So it's kind of a pick your poison, how much risk you're willing to take. Is kind of how I'm looking at it. How about you?
I have, for a couple reasons, and I'll explain it. I have Bryce Harper at 1, Vlad at 2, Freddie at 3, and Matt Olson. Matt Olson is clearly the 4th person here. I'm just going based off talent. I think those 4 are the most talented in a tier. Mm-hmm. But like you said, Bryce Harper, I think, did basically what Vladimir Guerrero did last year without the average. So average leads average leagues, this does kind of fluctuate a little bit, but I've been very like on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like that's probably like his 90th percentile, and then other years we see 30th. So like he's going to bounce in somewhere, and like you said, that's kind of a Bryce Harper year. And if Bryce Harper has just a normal year that he has, he's going to be more valuable than Vlad Guerrero Jr. So by that logic, if I go 50th percentile for both, I have to assume Bryce Harper will be more valuable than Vlad. But Vlad is really uber talented and is much younger, so he's slots in at second. Now I say like I think Matt Olson is more talented than Freddie Freeman. However, like you said, Matt Olson hit way more home runs. Also a good lineup, but it's not the Dodgers. and Freddie Freeman is very, very good, probably the fourth most talented, and he plays with the Dodgers lineup. So he's not going to hit 30 home runs like the other three will, but with 25 in the Dodgers lineup, like you said, he probably won't get 10 stolen bases or 9 like I think he got last year, but 5 plus the 24 plus the probably 120, 25, 130 RBIs if he stays healthy for the full season, like just locked in. Like he plays a full season, it's 110, 110 guaranteed just because of like the animals that are around him. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just, how do you not? If you play a full season and the team's just not devastated with injuries, you're talking 110, 110, 25 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 280. That has to set in at third. I mean, and if you told me Vlad Guerrero did worse than that, I would totally believe it. Even probably Bryce Harper, but like I'm gonna go Bryce Harper, Vlad, Freddie Freeman just because the team he plays on, and then Matt Olson is the fourth. But I think those four, I'm very comfortable being the four. Matt Olson being the fourth, but like those are like the guys. I feel like those are the studs. I would say at first base
for sure.
And then there's a drop, and I think it's. Do I say substantial? I think it's a substantial drop. I think tier 2/3 is very like muddled. However you want to get nitpicky with it, but I think those four. I would say the first three are kind of like. They are kind of a guy in those like a sub category of Matt Olson, but Matt Olson is just, I think he's being slept on. I think he had a little bit worse year than normal last year. He's only 30 and didn't he hit like, how many years ago didn't he hit like, I can't load these last seasons because it keeps crashing out on me, but didn't he hit like 50 home runs almost the year before or something like that? I can't remember Matt Olson.
Yeah, here, let me see. 2023, yeah, 54.
Yeah, so like, I mean, like he's 1 year removed of hitting 50 plus. So like, and he hit 30 last year or something like that. So I think 29. He's closer to a 40 home run guy. And that lineup is going to get Ronald Acuna Jr. back. It's only going to help. It's a very good lineup even without him. I think all the Braves last year, we talked about Sean Murphy being a bounce back. I think, third baseman for them.
For the Braves? Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin Riley.
Took a step back. I think he bounces back with Acuna coming back. I think that lineup is still plenty good enough to all have bounce back years. Just from like, if you just ran it without Ronald Acuna, it's probably a bounce back year for all of them. Just because, got a little wonky, got a little funky. There was so many injuries. Like they lost their starting pitcher, their best pitcher, best player. Like a lot of stuff happened. They still were pretty good. But then you throw Ronald Acuna in there, it's going to be so like Matt Olson's just going to take a big, big jump up just from like normalizing and everybody getting healthy. I think that's going to be it. And then after 4, JT, I'll just kick it to you. Where do you go? They says Pete Alonso, Josh Naylor, Christian Walker. Is that the 3 you think are next?
I immediately am drawn to Walker.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I said. That's where my head went to. Walker at 5.
Yeah. Just as good of a situation. I don't know. I mean, the ballpark definitely changes, but that short porch and left should benefit. It'd be almost interesting to see his like spray chart on Savant. Might pull that up while we're talking, but that's what my idea goes to immediately. Oh yeah, he's gonna feast in that. Yeah, his overlay is already the spray chart, but it's also the field is the image of the Astros field.
Yeah.
There. So I go with Christian Walker, and then I feel like I could toss it up between Alonso or Naylor. We know what Alonso's going to do. Don't know where he's going to do it yet.
But they're
Naylor
not
is,
worried about him doing it. He's the guy whose power is going to play at any stadium. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. Obviously, some situations are better, but it's going to play either wherever he goes.
right. Um, Whereas like Naylor's situation probably got a whole lot better. Um, Lineup, hitting at semi altitude, just all around. It's just everything plays up. Um, I mean, shoot, he had the most. Was it? Do you have the most RBIs out of this group, or is it just short of 108? Yeah, Josh Naylor had the most RBIs in 2024 out of these first basemen. That's kind of
That's crazy.
interesting. So I feel like he could probably at least match what he did this year. Just I don't know. Pete Alonso hit 240. That's something that you kind of want to see. You don't want him to like decimate
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
in a league, like in an average league. That'd be
I
my
mean, if he
only
hits 240,
worry.
walks 70 times, and hits 35 home runs, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2023 is actually looking like the odd year out for Pete Alonso, which is good because um, ultimately you can just point at that BABIP 205 in 2023 and be like, look, he's a 270 BABIP historically, like very rock solid, which kind of makes sense for like a non-ground ball hitter. Just he's a fly ball hitter, so for him to sustain that is a really positive. And he walked over 10% this last year, so everything's looking healthy. What kind of lineup? It's the counting stats is the only
Yeah.
question mark. You figure that, the baseline's 80-80. And
RBIs, you can only hit yourself in one time.
yeah.
You gotta have other people to hit in.
What was the image I showed? The meme is it RBI,
Oh,
RBIs, or R's BI?
RSBI runs batted in.
Yeah.
That one makes the most sense. It is runs batted in, so RSBI would make the most sense to me. That's. I think we should change it. Yeah,
Yeah.
not run
So
batted in.
I think those three are the next tier. Um Actually, I feel pretty solid about any of those three in that tier. I could kind of mix and match. I don't know. I don't know how I would choose between the three and just maybe let the draft, fall to me and just see how it
Yeah,
unfolds. Because to
I
me, there's another teardrop after that. So what's your take?
yeah I agree. Christian Walker's my 5 with a bullet, and then I go Pete Alonso, regardless of where he plays. I just think Naylor coming from Cleveland. Cleveland really opened up their stadium last year, and it allowed a lot of baseballs to actually fly to right field a lot last year.
Hmm.
So it helped. He's quite young for this position. So I think how old is Naylor? Is he 27? That's my guess.
7. Yeah,
Ooh, there
you're
we go.
right.
Quite young for this position, I feel like, other than, maybe Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It feels like Bryce Harper's never old, but he's 32 now. So but I know Pete Alonso's younger than Bryce Harper, which is just like it breaks my brain. I always just view Bryce Harper as like 24. But he's just apparently he does age like everybody else. But I just view Josh Naylor as the least talented is the least talented of the three. And so I think, like you said, 108 is like what happened, because I just don't know that that's happening anymore. He doesn't walk as much. I don't know if the pops. I think 31 is about what his max is.
Hmm.
So I guess it comes down to like I think he got a high percentile year out of last year. Good player, but like of those three, he's clearly the third for me. He is definitely in that tier. And my point to this is that's 7 guys. That is really 7 guys I like, and it's in this drafting after this. I would not be happy if I did not get one of these 7. That's how big of a cliff I think this is. Now, not to say that these guys don't have upside, but I don't want to go into my season with the first baseman of upside, because first baseman, I mean, used to be, and I get it that maybe not now, but like you had boppers at first. Now I'm kind of like, man, there is a cliff, and like number 8, we're talking Tristan Cassis or Spencer Steer or Salvador Perez, who you're not playing at first base, you're playing in the catcher position. So I don't even count him, or Cody Bellinger. And so I'm just, I, I mean, we quickly got to Cody Bellinger as the 10th, and he went like what did he do? 18-9 last year with a 260 average. Like that's top 10 for first baseman in 2025. So I kind of like my strategy at first base is I gotta lock one of the 7. If I got Josh Naylor, totally great. I don't have to think about it. But if I didn't get one of the 7, I better have a stacked other positions. Let's put it that way to make up
Mhm.
for like if I'm rolling with a Spencer Steer, like the player, but like with 2020, that's fine. But like I still don't really know who you are too much. You hit 220 last year? Tristan Cassis. Everyone's like, oh man, 13 home runs. That's kind of it. I mean, he only played 63 games, but I'm just like, I got to see you do it. Like there's major. I guess the best way is there's major question marks after 7, and rolling with a major question mark at first, where I'm willing. We talked about it just last week. I'm willing to roll with a major question mark at catcher, but you can't have all these positions where you're just willing to have a major question at. So I've made the play where like I got to get one of the top 7. How do you feel about the position in general? And after that, I guess like your tiers right there. What do you do after that?
Yeah, Steer, I I think he's more of that util. He's multi-position eligibility. I don't think you would want him to play first. It's nice
Yeah,
on those random days of the week, but like him and like Salvador Perez is here, and I feel
catcher
like
without a doubt. You whatever you're putting them at catcher if there anyone up there. But like,
yeah,
yeah, I get it. But like at the end of the day, if you have to put him at first, like that's more realistic than ever putting Salvador Perez in there.
sure, yeah. Um, Casas intrigues me. I don't think we've really seen like a full season. We saw pretty much a full season in 2023, 502 plate appearances. Um, and that was a solid year. Just really haven't seen him fully healthy. And that lineup in Boston, I'd be willing to take a flyer, but I wouldn't feel, warm and fuzzy about it. I agree
It's
with you.
sneaky,
Like
and there's some bounce back candidates for sure. But like, if it doesn't go right, and he's had you know 50, 40 hot games, we've seen that Kyle Lewis won an MVP award or a Rookie of the Year award doing that.
hmm
Like I'm just like it's fine, but like if I'm coming in like I already got a question mark at catcher. We already talked about we drafted past like a Cal Raleigh spot. And I've got the 11th catcher, and then my immediately following up with at going to first base. We've done 2 podcasts, and I go Tristan Cassius is my first baseman. I'm like, gosh, like I'm just like I got like I better have like prime. I better have Otani somewhere. I better have I better have some of these like absolute studs to make up for these massive question marks I took. Then that's like my
Yeah.
man, because if he doesn't hit, then I'm like, it's a cliff. I feel like because you're not finding anything on the. I guess the other thing is like if you miss on an outfielder, it's one thing, but like if you miss at first base, you just draft Kristen and he doesn't do anything. Who's gonna be on the like Jake Cronenworth? Like are you just Nathaniel Lowe is who I'm rolling with? Like I mean, not even to say these players aren't bad, but I'm like that's who I'm rolling with then. Like as my starting first baseman. And I'm just like, man, that's not, you know, it's not it's not Pete Alonso. It's not Christian Walker. You know what I mean? Like they were right there. So yeah, that's the point. I get it. I get the Tristan Cassius love, but that's 60 games is it's just 60 games, man.
Yeah. I have a soft spot for Vinny Pasquantino. That's another guy here in this kind of like jumbled tier of I he's a plate discipline. He's got it. He can square up the ball really well. He doesn't strike out a ton. I mean, we're talking barely double digits. It's just I don't, his walk percentage actually is kind of fluctuated, which is interesting, but um overall, I feel like it's a really high floor. I just don't know what the ceiling is. We saw pretty much a full season in 2024 for the first time, and it was decent. I mean, he had 19 home runs, and I mean,
He almost had 100 RBIs in Kansas City, which was like,
I
okay.
mean, I was gonna say the counting stats are there. That lineup's kind of sneaky good. Once you kind of look past Witt and and Perez, but it's still like there's counting sets to be had. And he's one of the boys. He like what shared that podcast he was on. He stood up for Pete Alonso talking about WAR and how first basemen are evaluated and everything. So it's just like he's probably a good dude, good locker room type thing. So it's just kind of like it just seems like he seems like a humble guy. So someone like, oh, I'm playing fantasy baseball. It's completely for fun. Someone who you kind of root for.
How comfortable are you rolling with Vinny Pasquantino as your starting first baseman?
In a 15-team league, I'd be like totally fine about it. But in a
In a
12 team, I better have like a loaded outfield third base, like some
Yeah.
crazy awesome draft ahead of that. It'd be interesting actually. Now that you asked that, I'm switch over
So
to.
while you look that up, so we could talk about like after the Christian Walker players we like, because you like Vinny Pasquantino. I like him too. I also really, if you're like you miss it, like let's just say you can't get it. I really like Jake Berger as well down here
Ooh,
for Texas.
okay.
28-year-old, basically a third home run season last year for Miami. Now he didn't have any RBIs because we can get into Miami, but it turns out maybe Texas has a better lineup a little bit than Miami, so just a bit. So I think, and Miami's not a small ballpark either. So hitting 30 bombs again, it's kind of a Pete Alonso thing. Power's not going to be an issue here. So get him a better ballpark to hit power in, and more guys running around the bases. I think Jake Berger down here at what he's going 130. I think if you miss and you do that, round 12, something like that, a Jake Berger is not a bad pick, because I think Vinny Pasquantino, him and Jake Berger are going around the same area. Jake Berger maybe around later, but like if you miss, that's I don't want to say catastrophic for me, but a big deal. Let's hypothetically, then you get your best catcher, you get your I don't know, named X catcher that we talked about yesterday. You get your Adley Rutschman, and then you're like, okay, I could afford to kind of maybe take a flyer on him. An Adley Rutschman and a Jake Berger or a Vinny Pasquantino, I'm okay with that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I feel pretty comfortable with. So I guess it's like you either need one of these two categories, because it's kind of why we're starting with these two positions, because I'm like, you need one of these two to kind of be more of a dude than not. But I think to your point, I'm comfortable with Jake Berger because I think Jake Berger's played. Vinny's had some hiccups with some health a little bit. Played
Yeah.
130 games last year, which was good, but up until that point, does he even have 500 bats in a season? I don't think. So it's kind of like, what if he gets nicked up a little bit? I don't want to use the term injury prone, but I just uh, I'm that's also kind of makes me nervous with some of these guys, because you get down here, that's kind of why it is. So,
Right.
but I do like the players. Just there's other questions, and that's why they're down here. To be fair,
Oh,
so
for sure. And what I was looking at was, okay, so Pasquantino or Bellinger, right now their ADP is like 108. So that's like squarely like ninth roundish.
yeah,
And I feel like you could load up a sweet team, nine on your ninth pick. So you got 8 before that, get, 2, 3 type pitchers and fill out that rest of the hitting roster. I feel like, it'd be a safe floor. Now, Vinny, I feel like is that OBP lean maybe a little bit, and like maybe a little bit. Well, I don't know. Burgers in Texas don't have counting stats. I feel like Burgers floor and ceiling are really close together. They're
yeah,
higher, but
yeah.
they're really close together in terms of. I've seen 2 full seasons out of Burger. He's literally hit 250. His OBP is barely over 300, so he doesn't walk a ton. He strikes out a normal amount in terms of
Modern baseball,
major
yeah,
modern baseball.
yeah.
And I feel like it's he's probably good for right around 30 home runs, and it's just we'll see if anybody was on base when he hit those, for the
Yeah,
counting stats.
yeah.
So otherwise, I like I'm down. He's like definitely one of those kind of like hard contact pull hitters, but he thrives with it, and in that ballpark in Texas now, it'll work. Um,
I I'm really actually, you talk about it. It's kind of like we're looking at Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, Yandy Diaz. I don't really want any part of much of that, honestly. I really
mhm.
dig in the Jake Berger, Vinny Pasquantino kind of sandwich or burger, if you will, down here.
Oh.
Because I just think, like you said, like even Spencer Steer, I like Spencer Steer more. Um, or even then, I kind of do, but like maybe even with the Bullet, I'd probably take either of those two. I'd probably just wait with the Tristan Cassius and Spencer Steer. I know you like Cassius, but I'd probably wait on those two because I don't think, and Cody Bellinger, I don't think they move the needle for me. And I'd wait a couple rounds and take a Vinny or a Jake Berger and try to roll with one of those. Now, problem is if I miss those two, I, I am then mad. That's not my first base position. But,
Right.
um, and then, yeah, but I don't know about you, but I call me crazy, but I really like Vinny and Jake Berger for that because, like you said, Berger's floor and ceiling are pretty close. I think Vinny's floor is kind of last year because again, he had what 100. I already said it once, 130 games, 130 games for the first time, barring
Mhm.
injury, 130 games, and that stat line. I mean, he's let's say hypothetically plays 20 more games, goes 150, and plays a relatively healthy season. Because you're not drafting somebody assuming they're going to get hurt. So like you're assuming they're going to be healthy. 25 home runs, 100 RBIs. Like you said, he walks a good clip too.
Mhm.
I'm digging that. You know what I mean? And that's I just feel like his floor, despite like kind of the same things we've seen with Tristan Cassius, I guess Tristan has been like somewhat more ups and downs in his limited time, whereas like when Vinny plays, he's the same player every time. It's just him playing is what the issue's been. Where I'm like, okay, if Vinny plays, this is who he is. Tristan Cassius, okay, he's playing, but like which Tristan am I getting? I feel like that's more of a question for me because Tristan showed up last year and like got it, but I'm like, where was this? Where was this Tristan before?
Right. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's kind of this post-type sleeper with Tristan.
Yeah,
Um, but you still, a little bit of your that baseball player in you is like kind of rooting for that underdog
yeah.
and him to show up and show out for what he was graded out as, a younger
Yeah, he's
prospect. So,
Boston though. No, just kidding.
right.
I don't
Well,
like Boston, but yeah,
he's a lefty in Boston. I
yeah.
mean, that's pretty sweet.
There's not an
Setup.
easier place to hit, probably. Yeah. The dude only has 2 sacrifice flies in his career, JT, in 3 seasons. What are we doing here?
I
He's
don't
just
know.
selfish. He just wants to get the runners in himself. You know, just that's the only thing
Who
we could say about it.
who else had a ridiculous sacrifice fly in the playoffs? Like for someone, wasn't it?
That sounds really familiar, and obviously that's just more of a situation thing. I mean, yeah, they strike out or do something like that, but it's just gotta be there's gotta be a guy in third and less than 2 outs, and some situations just aren't great for that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so it's mostly situation. I feel like and luck variance. So, but yeah,
So I feel like this is the point where it kind of becomes the Wild Wild West. It's 12 team. You definitely have your first baseman selected. We've gone through, more than a dozen names. 15-team league. If you don't have a first baseman yet, oh, I feel for you. And now it's just like if you're in one of those 15-team leagues and you still got to address corner and field, I'm really worried for you. So because you mentioned like the Goldschmidt because that's kind of what we're around. Nathaniel Lowe kind of stands out to me. He's in Washington now. There's
Paul
always
Goldschmidt for me is
Yandy.
a look at the flowers situation. It's over, man. I hate how this is going. I really like Paul Goldschmidt for a long time, but like fantasy wise, I'm like, I don't know. I don't like logistically, I don't know how far he'd have to fall for me to roster him. Like I just think this is like the cliff has already been hit, basically.
Okay.
Like I think that's it. I think you're lucky to get 20 home runs out of him. That's where I'm at. Like 18 home runs in a full season.
He's like a 2010, 20 home runs, 10 stolen bases.
I think it's even gonna be less. I think he's gonna do like
Okay.
18 and 5
Okay.
and a 700 OPS, and that's not rosterable in fantasy. I think it's where he's at right now. Even going to New York, I think it's what it is. I mean, you could probably, I mean, look up it, like pull up his year-to-year stats. It's just like getting worse each year exponentially for the last 4 years now, or 3 years, I guess technically. But I'm just like, it's like it almost no, he's striking out more. His average goes down. His OBP goes down. His slugging goes down. His OPS, his BABIP goes down. His
Mhm.
home runs go down. Every single thing he did walk more his second year is going down. Like I'm just like across the board, runs, hits, RBIs, like all of it. Every 3 years, he had one more double than last year. Okay, he hit one triple. It was his first in 3 years. But like other than that, we're like even his hit by pitches, his sack flies, they're all going down in the last 3 years in a row. I'm like, it's just screaming like I mean,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
he levels what he did last year, but like, I mean, 2010, 700 OPS first baseman. I mean, I'd rather at that point just take a flyer on a guy. Call me crazy, but I'd rather have like Nathaniel Lowe or a Mountcastle. You know, I'll throw some dice. You know,
I agree. It's just the name value, and then now he's with the Yankees, and in that lineup protection, it's just like at a certain point, I feel like you're gonna go weeks on weeks where you're like, man, he's not really panning out, and I don't know if I should like drop him or bench him or like what I should do. And so I could definitely
because
see.
I think that you got caught with that last year. You were fighting it. I mean, not like it's a bad thing, but like I think it actually hurts you when you have that name value player because you're
Mhm.
like you tend to hold on to them and play them longer. And I'm like, I would have probably done the same thing you did too, JT. So this is not a knock on you, but I'm just like, it hurts you by just like holding on to these guys for so long.
Well, because I'm 99% sure if I drop him, he's getting
Yeah, he'll
picked
go
up.
off.
But
My
if
also
I
thought
say,
is too like
hey, anybody want to trade for him? They're like, no, go ahead and drop him. I'll just get him. And so you're like,
my also thought is like too like I get like there's protection in the Yankees lineup, but is there like really like he's projected to hit after Aaron Judge, but ahead of Volpe, who I like, but he's not like he hasn't been a superstar yet. Jazz Chisholm, which is like I know, sorry, I'm gonna say it, the most overrated maybe player in baseball currently. Good player, but he was on the cover of MLB after like a 104 WR plus season. Like, I'm just
mm-hmm,
like, what are we doing here? Like, and so like he is a okay player, but that's what he is. He's okay. And he's your number two. And then you're like Aaron Judge. Obviously, he's Aaron Judge. But then you're like him, and we talked about how I don't want any part of Cody Bellinger after him. Giancarlo Stanton is 36, and he's okay. He's a 110 WRC plus at going into his age 36 season. And then don't get me started on the back end of this team.
right? Yeah.
Like, so I'm like Oswalt Cabrera is playing. You know, I'm just like, is there protection in the Yankees lineup? Like, is it? So I just I don't know. I don't know if it's enough, to be honest, to pull Goldschmidt to pull him out. Aaron Judge is nice, but like unless Cody Bellinger Stanton doesn't get hurt again, and I know we like Austin Wells, but again, at the end of the day, we like him for a catcher, maybe not a bat. Like you're talking all bats considered, is he gonna scare you? No.
Right.
So I don't know if there is a lot of protection there for him. On paper, there might be, but again, it's kind of the name thing too. And basically, the last three guys I just mentioned are like, are these names going to be good enough this year? Can they live up to what they've been in the past? All three have won MVPs: Paul Goldschmidt, Cody Bellinger, and Stan, and they're not what they used to be. So, can they be half of the MVP season? Can be 70%? I don't know. That's a legitimate question. I don't know if they could ever be that again. So, that's my problem with Paul Goldschmidt. I think it's the name value, and he's relying on other people being name values, and they're not the value that name was. How the percentage of what it could be, I guess, is what it comes down to. So I just
agree.
roll with somebody else. I just roll with the dice with somebody else. But like you're saying, if they are 70% of what they used to be at MVP seasons, then Paul Goldschmidt probably will be a good player just because of counting stats. But I just don't know, man. I don't
Well,
know.
here's the conundrum. Like, where do you go? Where do
Yeah,
you look to?
I knew you were gonna say that. Damn it! I don't know.
But that's the thing. Like,
I know.
it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
Like, but like that's what we need to look into. I mean, Ryan Mountcastle, I would just feel like there's more upside, there's more potential. It's probably just as good of a lineup situation, if not better. I
What
forget.
about a Rhys Hoskins?
I've always enjoyed Rhys Hoskins.
His batting average took a huge hit, but I think it was like 240 for like 4 years prior to that, and a 212. It's got to be like an outlier kind of thing, right? Unless the close starting, but he's still at 26 home runs. He gets back to 240 average, back up to 800 OPS with 330 home runs. I would probably just roll the dice on that versus what I see is a clear pattern of Paul Goldschmidt.
Right. Because I mean, like Yandy Diaz is right there next to him. He's got great like percentage stats, but fantasy baseball is all about counting stats, and that's just not there unless he gets traded. But you can't be holding out for hope for that. I look at Yandy and I kind of, and it's kind of in the same like Luis Arias is technically first base eligible. It's just like it's just empty. It's just ratios which don't really amount to too much. It's just
Yeah.
one of the main what 5 or 6 categories that usually either your home league
Yeah.
or
They don't mean anything unless they're turning into counting stats.
right.
It's nice that ratios are nice and usually more predictive than counting stats, but if they don't lead to the counting stats, they ain't getting any good in fantasy. You don't get on a hype, So yeah, I just been dumping on Paul Goldschmidt for a long time. I just feel I just like for like 10 minutes. I just feel like I'm dumping on Paul Goldschmidt. Like the I loved him in Arizona, rostered him a ton of times in Arizona, stud. It's just what an old piece of crap because we're the same age. Like,
I was gonna say like
we're the
be
same
nice.
age. Like, wait, hold on. Let me find out exactly. Oh wait, oh, man, it doesn't tell me how old exactly he is on this website. Let me find out exactly. What a old piece of crap! I am 1 day older than Paul Goldschmidt. I just found that out a lot. You just heard it live on the podcast. I am 1 day older than Paul Goldschmidt. He's such an old bum. I'm just kidding, Paul Goldschmidt. That's more of like a I'm old as shit, and you're still playing professional baseball. So good for you. But I think we both got to retire. Not I'm not. But like you're still a serviceable major league player, like a real baseball player. But like fantasy wise, I just at first base, I think the best days are behind you, fella. So yeah, I like even at Alex Bohm in Philly. I like the profile 28. Like maybe take a flyer there again, like if I've waited that long, I just like him to hit more home runs. But like I think that's what Paul Goldschmidt's going to be. 18 home runs, 5 stolen bases, and maybe 800 OPS, which is what he did. What Alex did last year. Upside. I think that they're going to be the same player. And maybe if Alex Bohm at 28 is like, here's a breakout, here we go, Philly. I think that's more likely to happen than Paul Goldschmidt doing it. So
Yeah, no, I agree. Right now, I'm just kind of looking at any other like sneaky values. Nathaniel Lowe and we talked about Bell. Bell's way down there in terms of ADP, but like that's kind of a nice first base DH. They're probably just going to rotate back and forth combo in Washington. Michael Busch doesn't really move the needle for me too much. I mean, we'll kind of see how it.
you want to know one that I like, but that hurts my heart at the same time? I like Luke Raley for the Mariners because in part-time he hit 22 home runs with an 800 OPS in Seattle last year, and now he's projected to be the everyday first baseman. Don't get me started on that in real baseball, but if he's everyday first baseman, an 800 OPS guy who hit, in 400 at bats, hit 22 home runs for the Mariners, you get him another 100 at bats, he hits closer to 30. He's still 30 years old. Like it's not like he's a dinosaur. So I'm just like, I would wish that tangent. I wish my real Mariners would get someone and didn't have to play Luke Raley at first base, but there's no one else right now. And Solano is not going to take bats from Luke Raley. Maybe a lefty righty thing, but I think at a certain point you just let him play because you literally have nobody else to take at bats from Luke Raley. And we're obviously talking super far down there. He's super far down there, but at a certain point you're like, he's going to get at bats, and he showed he could play, in that stadium. You get 20 home runs and 400 at bats, 400 plate appearances. I'm just saying, like, you give him 200 more plate appearances, which again, Mariners, please don't make him get 200 more plate appearances. But if you do, 25 home runs, 28 home runs out of the realm of possibility for a late round first baseman, that's not the end of the world.
And I feel like that's probably appropriate for where we're talking because I look at Ryan O'Hearn in Baltimore. It's very similar.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Bell's there too. He's kind of the same profile. 19 home runs and 5 540 at bats, but still, like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe a little less, but yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the same deal.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to be hurt again by CES. They're in Cincinnati, Christian Encarnacion Strand. Um, kind of want to just see how spring training plays out, but it's still kind of this post hype. Haven't seen it yet. Sleeper, not sure. Michael, was it
It's got it,
Togli?
like
No.
that big of a drop off in an injury riddled season. I feel like it's got to be a fluke, right? Now the
Yeah,
question is like, it's gonna be better, but how much better? That's kind of the big
right,
crux of
right.
it. He's not a 500 OPS guy, but is he the 850 OPS guy from before? That's a legitimate. We have no idea. So
Yeah.
we just don't know.
Michael Toglia in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
switch hitter and just mashes the ball if he makes contact. When he swings really hard, if he hits it, it goes far, especially in Colorado. Kind of like a Rooker light, like opposed like before Rooker really established himself and got the bag. But it's intriguing to get someone who mashes the ball and plays half their games in Colorado. It's kind of fun.
Colorado has like Nolan who's the outfielder? Nolan Jones.
Hmm.
I feel like they have these kind of guys.
Right.
It's just like big guys who just mash. And I'm like, you play half your games in Colorado. And I'm like, just kind of strike out a little bit less because you don't have to swing that hard here in Colorado and you're only really big. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of just got to make contact. Like, and the air will do the rest. But yeah, they have a lot of these type of players, I feel like, which is not a bad thing. And always fringe fantasy viable. I feel like every single position almost in Colorado, you're like, yeah, I could see that. I can see that. I mean, barring a couple exceptions, obviously, but like, yeah, I feel like you're always like on a waiver wire, like the first through third guy is always like a Colorado guy. You're like, okay, I could talk myself into that.
Right. I'm just kind of picking through some names here. I don't know if you had any that stood out, but
Not that,
like Cronenworth intrigues me. I feel like he could be just like a sneaky. I feel like you'd play him at second, but first
yeah,
base
that's
eligible technically, like as my, you know, position eligibility flex. Like I don't mind it. Like corner infield, sure. It's just like a solid lineup situation. He's a solid hitter. I kind of know what the floor is.
yeah. He just kind of fell off after his first 2 years, though. Was kind of my
Hmm.
problem with him. He had that 20 home run season, and then it was just kind of like that was his best year. And now, how old is he? Like 31. I remember he's like surprisingly
Yeah.
old. Oh, totally threw that out there. Went to Michigan. Yeah, nice call. All right, on the age, but I'm just like, oh man, I don't know if like 720 OPS though. Like, I think you're right. Second base it totally plays. I just don't know if it plays at first. Is the problem.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm looking at like Andrew Vaughn types. I just anything to do with the White Sox right now. Even if I like the player in the past, I want to avoid like nothing else. Nothing they seem to touch is going right now. So I mean, how did Spencer Torkelson end? No. Spencer Torkelson, I had such hopes for you. We both did.
I want to see what Isaac Paredes does in
That's
Houston.
a name I'm kind of like floating around and like kind of like
You talk about a pull hitter, and you talk about a stadium that loves a righty pull hitter with the short porch. Like I'm intrigued on what they could do with him this off season and in spring training and any type of squeezing the last drop of potential out
what
of him.
I definitely do. I do. What about gosh, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Nolan, the Angels first baseman, Nolan
Shonel or yeah,
Sean,
I'm
yeah,
probably
whatever you pronounce it.
butchering it. Yeah.
Young kid, 22, went 13 and 10 last year. And I mean, he played 100, had 150 at bats. 7 something OPS, 710 OPS. So, but like he's only 22. This is his first crack at the majors. Probably improves. The question is just how much does it improve? But the makeup's nice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's maybe something more. The question is, like we talked about before, how much more is in there? I don't know, but he's
He's
interested me in
oh
the
yeah,
past.
he's Pasquantino light. He's got a great batter's eye. He controls the
68
plate
walks. Yeah.
discipline.
Yeah.
Um, he will hit the sweet spot out of the baseball. It will not go far. He's swinging a noodle. But
That's
again, we're young. He's squaring the ball up. He's hitting a great launch angle. Like he's so far kind of maximizing what he's done because he's not barreling it. He's not hitting it hard or anything. So it's really tough to see. Like, but at the same time, it's kind of cool to see that 13-10 that you mentioned. I think this 2025 season will really
tell you who he is.
express on
Yeah.
like where the ceiling is because I
Yeah.
feel like the floor is there. You just like you haven't seen anything out of the bat, but
Because
he's
he had a
going to be on
shocking.
base.
Yeah, he had a low BABIP. It will come up. He
Hmm.
walks a bunch. Doesn't strike out a ton. Again, modern baseball. Went double digits at first base. Has a 250 batting average, which is very nice. A 340 on base. Like, definitely, like, you just get a little, like, maybe develops a little bit more power. I don't need you to hit 30, but if you could get to 20, 10 at the late rounds with a good eye, like, that's serviceable first baseman. So, interesting. And again, we're grasping the straws here. These are late round guys, but it's the 28th first baseman. But names to just keep in mind. I do like Nolan, Luke Raley. Do you like Paredes, or are you just kind of like interested in him?
I mean, I'm intrigued. I feel like
Okay, yeah, we could group him in there. Because I agree.
I feel like yeah. I'm looking at Alec Burleson. I haven't said his name yet. I keep kind of skipping over him. I feel like it's like one of those like
It's St. Louis,
generic,
JT. St.
like
Louis is all
off-brand.
these guys who are like, they could be good. How many of them ever, they're always like solid baseball players. But the problem is, like, in fantasy, I don't need a solid baseball player. I need, like, you just to do a category really well.
Hmm.
I don't know what to name. They're all named like Alec or like Nolan or like Paul. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like three names. That's their whole roster. Like Midwest. Like that's just what they are. And so I completely, before you even said it, like Alec, but he is a Cardinal player. Nothing's gonna stand out. But you look at it, you're like, he filled up the stat sheet pretty well. But what's the thing I point to? You know what I mean? Like what are you doing?
But yeah, I kind of skim his profile on Savant, and I'm just like, he doesn't strike out. That's what he does really well.
More
Okay.
walks than strike. Oh no, sorry. That was RBS. So I was looking category off. Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
His ex Woba was solid last year. Like solid. Nothing crazy. He just doesn't strike out. Squares up the ball really well. So he's good batting average, good contact. He's like to me, I'm seeing a Castellanos that plays first base eligible. I'm just like, that'll play.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I mean, he hit 21 home runs last year. That's absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. 9 stolen bases, and I mean, I'll take that because the other names around here,
Yeah.
it's kind of.
I just said we're hoping Luke Raley hits 20. We're hoping Luke Raley hits 20 home runs. I just said that a second ago. So and he just did it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, in terms of at least you see some pop because we're talking about Nolan. What is that name? We gotta look it up.
I've never heard it, but it's one of those where I recognize. But you show me the name of like first baseman for the Angels, know it, but I'm like, I don't know if I've ever heard it said out loud.
I'll look it up by the next time, but I want to say Shawnell because it's not ringing a bell any other way. Like Kyle Manzardo in Cleveland, I think he'll most likely DH or play first, and maybe Carlos Santana will DH. But like those both guys, I mean, Kyle's a Coug, so I mean, soft spot there, but does not hit the ball very well, but has a really good eye at the plate and will walk and I mean that's why he's an OBP kind of guy. Will bat higher in the lineup ish, but it's just like for fantasy, you're just like, like Cleveland does that a lot, but they all collectively, they actually get quite a bit of counting stats out of it.
Because it's same with the Cardinals. I feel like that's why you see like 20 home runs, but they have like a bunch of RBIs and stuff. They're all like the same player. They're like I wouldn't say annoying because that kind of tends to be like not as valuable, but it's just like they're like they roster like 8 solid bats. That's why Naylor got 108 RBIs. They have 8 solid hitters. There's very few, and it's a compliment to these organizations. There's very few dead spots in both their lineups, but there's never like is that dude.
Hmm.
And so that's why it's like they're really solid. So there's always people on the bases and they're doing stuff. But it's just like if I'm fantasy, I gotta pick one. I don't get the roster. I get like one of the guys running around the bases, and I'm like, none of you, all of you are like the Colorado people. Like Colorado people are like, I can mash. I just gotta make contact. The Cardinals, I'm like, you all do the same thing, but none of you do it just slightly better than the other, and I don't know where to go. It's like every time I'm on the waiver wires, I'm like, here's all these Cardinal guys, like Harrison Bader in the past, like O'Neill, who like was always hurt, or like I'm like, what do I do with you? And like Walker, all these guys are calling up. I'm like, I don't know what to do with all of you. Like, you're all like
Right.
the same guy. Like, you're like, so they make for good real baseball, but like fantasy, it's just like none of you hit like 35 home runs or 30 home runs. Like, and you only like 22 home runs, 80 RBIs, 80 runs, and I'm like, that is a great 22nd rounder. You know what I mean? Like, congratulations. Like, maybe you did it as a catcher. We're talking, but like, that is fantastic. 24th round guy, or you're always the middle infield guy for whatever 15 team league. You need a middle infield. Cardinals. Like one of the 9 guys that play second base for them. Like, there you go. Fill it with a Cardinal.
Yeah. And I mean, the last 10 plus minutes, it's really, they're really good baseball players. Like, they're better real life baseball
Yeah,
players
yeah,
than fantasy. And that's kind of
yeah.
what you're trying to like, what's
Yeah.
the potential? Where can you, get the most out of them? And it's like, what are they good at? And what's their weak spot? And is it like a horrible, it's
Yeah, we're like
gonna
Jake Berger
hamstring them?
hits 30 home runs. Like that's a big like counting stat in a week where you got like home runs as a category. You're winning to a matchup. I need to win home runs. That. But what's not going to win me home runs is when my guy first baseman hits 18, which is like the Cardinals or the Cleveland Guardians. Like that's just like I'm like, I thank you for the 3 RBIs or 4 RBIs this week, and maybe one home run, but like that's not going to win me a week or help me really do anything in a position of supposed power. So I think that's it. You got
Yeah,
anybody else,
there's
JT?
not really. I mean,
I mean,
there's
we
a
delved
lot
a
of
lot
the
into these lower guys,
yeah,
a lot more than I
all
thought.
these other, I feel like, but I think that's kind of where it really trails off for me. There's names in here where I'm like, you know what? Injury riddled week here and there. I've had a Lamont Wade Jr. I've had a Pavin Smith. It's just like, but
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
like you're gonna go into the draft um seeking them out. You're gonna go elsewhere. I mean,
I
just
think this position might be the craziest. I think it's 4 guys at the top. Matt Olson's clearly the fourth, but it's 4 guys. Then it's a thing of 3 in those next ones, and then you got like a round of like from Tristan Cassius to like Paul Goldschmidt, probably I say, and then it's just everything else. Like it is just like if you took Yandy Diaz, or if you went all the way and took, I don't know what you just said, Cardinals guy. We just talked about him for 20 minutes. What's
Burleson.
his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, you took him. I'd be like, oh, not shocked. Like it goes like from 15 to like 30. Or I'm like, yeah, anyone in there, totally fine. I don't care. Figure it out. Like somebody. Like that's just a
Yeah.
huge chunk, and I don't know how to separate them really. I guess it's more of what do you need? Do you need home runs? Do you need RBIs? Do you need a little bit of everything? Do you need a floor? Do you need a ceiling? Whatever you need after that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more I look at it, I circle back on like who's the one that I didn't really know where to put him, and I feel like maybe there's a lot more room for growth. I kind of circle back to Michael Bush. Like it was his first full season. He's a 2019 draft pick, first rounder with the Dodgers. Now he's with the Cubs. He walks a ton. He strikes out a ton. I'm not really sure what to make of it, but again, he's 27 and he just had his rookie season, 2024. He's a lefty masher, lifts the ball in the air when he gets a hold of it.
I mean, he did have, like, what, 8 games in a row where he hit a home run? So,
Yeah,
there was a
little,
crazy hot streak, and, like, other than that
yeah. So like that's the one I'm circle back and see what kind of playing time and
yeah.
lineup and stuff. So it's just like, but
I saw him, and I did
otherwise,
see if you took away that, like, hot week and a half,
hmm
numbers were fine, but you know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, I need one more year. I probably don't invest in him because I just need to see one more year. Like, do you have these hot streaks? Are you kind of streaky guy anyways? Because like a Kyle Seager famously was a streaky guy. They're not against rostering them, but like, do I need to kind of know who you are? If I'm like, was it just this one hot streak and that's not who you are, and then like all your numbers are gonna dip, or are you just a streaky player? Totally fine either way. I don't want to invest knowing that, but like you said, you're not investing a ton with him at this range anyways. So, but I probably probably go a little down somewhere like someone other than that, but totally viable to roster him where he's going in like the 230 range. So
cool.
that's do you got a dad bod?
No, not really. Not. I mean, I watched the Vinny interview. He's kind of got that vibe in me. He's nothing special, but
Okay, well, I'm gonna say this: the two guys we like the most, Vinny and Jake Berger, have both been the pod of the week, the dad bod of the week.
right.
So what if we just go other style and just do Bryce Harper? Just I think he's a dad, right? Is he a dad?
Yeah, I think he's got a daughter.
I
I
was
feel
gonna
like
say I'm pretty
he's
sure he has
wearing
a kid.
a pink something.
I remember like I don't know. Apparently, I'm supposed to know who his wife is. It says wife and kids, so yes, there we go. So he
I
has
kind of
kids.
want to just make it Alec Burleson and just have our episode name like generic Midwest dude.
There you go. There you go. Generic Midwest dude. There we go. Alec Burleson. There you go. You are the fantasy dad bod player of the week.
He's got a beard. He's just kind of like an everyman, and it's just like he's really good at baseball. But like you walk by him on the street, you probably wouldn't
No
assume
idea.
that.
Yep. You'd have no
So,
idea. Sweet.
all right. Well, he's Sean. I'm JT. Tweet us at Fantasy Dad Pods. Let us know your top first base for the draft coming up, or your sleeper. Let us know where you think we agree with us or disagree, and we'll go from there. So find us on Twitter, Fantasy Dad Pods. But otherwise, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you listening. Take care, be well, and until next time, see ya.
See ya.